We will start with roll call. Ms. LeBreau.
Ms. Billing-Smith. Ms. Blanks.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Cortez.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Ms. Fay.
Present.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Mr. Winograd is absent. Mr. Zdanowitz.
Here.
Mr. Morpurgo is here. Ms. Rifkin is here. And alternate Karen Johnson is here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for being here. We will move to 3A without objection. I move to approve the minutes. Is there from 11/16/2021? First we go to public forum. I skipped right by it. I didn't see anybody, and I just public forum. There's none because this is subject to a public hearing. Okay. Now, without objection, I move to approve the minutes. Is there an objection? Seeing no objection, the minutes are approved. And now we will go down to the new business item, which is the preliminary budget for fiscal year 22-23 by District Manager for transmission to West Hartford Town Clerk. Mr. Ledwood.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We will review two funds this evening. We have the Blueback Square Fund, and then we have the West Hartford Center Special Services District Fund. As folks may know, the Blueback Square Fund is used primarily to fund our debt service for the parking garages and other public improvements. The second fund is our West Hartford Center Special Services District Fund, where we collect taxes. And then we also run our parking operations through that Special Services District Fund. And we will move the taxes and the parking operation, or the parking funds, minus parking operation expenses that we will take out of those funds and move that net amount over to the Blueback Square Fund once a year. And I have our Chief Financial Officer, Peter Privatera, here with us this evening. And Pete can walk us through any of the details and provide any answers to questions, as he's the accountant who's responsible for the transferring in and transferring out of several $1 million.
This is pretty straightforward. The Special Services District Fund does not carry a fund balance. That means all the money that goes into the district fund goes out of the district fund. There are two primary revenue sources. The first one is the district tax, approximately $1.7 million. And the second is parking revenue from parking operations within the district. And we have a conservative estimate of $2.1 million in for next year. There's also some parking violation revenue in the district and some interest income. The total revenue is $3,865,730. On the expenditure side, there's only two transfers out. As the town manager said, the primary transfer is $3,654,000. That gets transferred to the Blueback Square Fund, and the primary reason for that is to pay the outstanding debt on the garages. And whatever is left over, in this case, $211,730, that'll get transferred to the parking lot fund to partially offset parking operation expenses within the district. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you, Mr. Privatera. Are there any questions? Okay. I am sorry, but I'm having trouble getting on my, and so, wait, so
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
in
know.
it's in the book, too.
It's in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Page 16-7.
16-9 is the
Thank you.
PBS, excuse me, the Special Services District Fund. And
16-9?
16-9.
Thank you. That was my
Yeah.
question.
It's under the non-departmental heading.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It's all the way in the back.
I don't think this is online anyway yet. I haven't seen it, is it?
It is now.
It's not in my.
Yeah. It will be tomorrow.
I was going to look on my phone, but for our iPads, for some reason, I'm not seeing it. Okay. All right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
do
Mr.
the
David.
other members of the district have
They do.
They,
Okay. Do they do? Okay, thanks.
Good question. All right. I'm good. Any questions?
I just have one. May I?
Sure, Ms. Fay.
Thank you. Peter, could you tell me when the debt for the garages will be paid off? How many more years we have to go?
sure. We have 4 more years of payments. The final payment will be made in April of '26. We have outstanding principal and interest of $15.9 million on the bonds. We pay approximately $3.6 million a year on the debt service.
Peter, you said, I'm sorry, you said 6.3 per year?
Roughly 6.3, 6.4 a year. We're getting close to the end of the repayment schedule, so the principal, the interest is starting to decline as we move out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Mr. Davidoff has a question.
Sorry. Through you, Madam Mayor. So, with respect to the proposed parking revenue, we're estimating this year $2.1 million compared to this current fiscal year where we adopted 1.866, and we're estimating this year it's going to come in at 2.4. Where did we get that number of the 2.1? How was that arrived at?
Well, that number was provided by the manager of the parking department under the Public Works Department. I think what the concern is that there's still some unknowns out there regarding the pandemic. What if an additional variant pops up and we have to shut down operations? What's good about this fund is there is no fund balance. So whatever we collect over the 2.1 million will go into the parking fund after the debt service is paid off. So we felt comfortable going with a conservative estimate, knowing that we will probably collect a little more than that, and that will go into the parking fund to offset their operations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Just as maybe a reference, 2019 to 2020, you don't have that, do you?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Good, you do.
Just to put it in perspective on parking operations, on garage revenue, transient revenue, from 2019 to where we're projecting now, we're still about 38% less. With respect to the parking lot revenue in general, we're about 18% behind. We're about 13% behind in on-street meters. Overall, we're about 19% behind where we were, or about $925,000 at pre-pandemic levels.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Susanowitz.
Thank you. Can you hear today? I can't hear myself. Sorry. Since we're talking parking, and I've been a long-time visitor of Town Hall here, we used to have a pass to get in. If we're here for town business, there's no option. How are we paying to come here to Town Hall to park for town business?
No, I believe there was a grace period for folks to come in and conduct their business. We wouldn't be enforcing it. At this point, I'm not sure if the parking is being enforced on the surface lot outside, because we suspended that during the pandemic because we wanted to make sure people had access to Town Hall. But I know there is a plan in the future to start charging a portion of it, because obviously we're 19% behind on our parking revenues, and our parking lot fund next year is going into deficit. So our hope is that gradually, as we get through this pandemic and our parking revenue starts to improve, as you can see, it's improving already, we'll get to a point where we'll be able to offset that negative balance in the parking lot fund and hopefully come to a fund balance of a positive fund balance within 2 or 3 years.
Mr. Stanowitz, you look like you have another question.
Well, no, I'm curious, and when they do start enforcing, I didn't realize they weren't. If we're here on town business, as the counselors, how do we have to go in and get?
Well, there's a registration process that's going to be rolled out to all employees and all town officials and, everyone who has to come in on a regular basis. And all you have to do is go on that system and register one time. You can register up to 2 vehicles, and there won't be any violations enforced because you're here working on town business.
That makes sense, and it's a much better than, I think what we'll see soon is those kiosks coming down.
Correct.
So that'll be kind of a signal that things are starting. Right?
Right.
Mr. Ledwith, anything you want to?
No, Madam Mayor, that's exactly right. So I actually put my 2 cars in a couple of weeks ago. It was an easy process, and we will get it out to all of our counselors and Board of Ed members, and you'll be able to upload your cars and won't ever have to worry about it.
And that's also good for the garages. So if it's the middle of a snowstorm and you're still coming into work, you can park in the garage and your pass will still be good.
That's great, and this is and that is good for employees as well, I would imagine. So would it only be good for the hours, or is it good sort of all the time? I guess that's the question, because we used to have this sort of ethical issue of being here and then not paying for parking if we went out to eat or something. Could you?
So generally, it is within the hours of work and night meetings, but how closely they'll be enforcing that, we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. David.
Through you. So when Blueback Square was adopted, Mayor Cantor and I were involved in that. There was the special services tax, about $1.7 million. And in the original documentation, it was anticipated that that was going to be in place through the life of the repayment of the parking garage. So at some point, probably in the near future, sooner than later, we probably need to have a discussion.
Yeah, I believe there's language in the ordinance that calls for some decision-making to be made the year before, because once the garages are paid off, the district, if the district is not dissolved, the district will have to vote on any future expenses for the district. So there is language in the ordinance that calls for that.
So it would be fair to say that not during this council term, but those elected during the next council term have to deal with that, correct? Because that would be the people elected from 23 to 25, right? The term.
Right.
23. Okay,
Right.
I just wanted to make sure. All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. David. Yes, Ms. Johnson.
Yes, the parking fund is a separate fund. It's not part of the general fund. The parking operations fall under Public Works. So the parking fund is a standalone fund. They're responsible for all the on-surface parking, all the meters, the garage revenue, everything. A significant portion of their operation is in Blueback with the garages and with parking enforcement in the district. So when I talk about the parking lot fund, what I'm saying is, since they are providing a service to the district, we are transferring money out from the Special Services District to offset that cost in the parking lot fund.
Sure, so the parking fund, though, covered.
Correct.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. All right, any other questions? Peter, somebody
Sorry.
wants you.
I should have shut it off.
Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions or comments on this, we do have without objection, I move that we set this item for a public hearing on Tuesday, April 12th, 2022 at 6:30. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion passes. We have no consent calendar, no staff reports, no executive session, and without objection, I move that we adjourn. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll see you on April 12th. All right, and we will meet back here at 7:15 for public comment.
Like this, original. You like this or not?
Okay, it is now 7:15, and we will go to the public comment section of our town council meeting. We're going to start with our call to order and a roll call. Ms. LeBrun.
Ms. Billings-Smith,
Present.
Ms. Blanks,
Present.
Ms. Cantor,
Here.
Mr. Cortez,
Here.
Mr. Davidoff,
Here.
Ms. Fay,
Present.
Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Winograd,
Here.
and Mr. Zdanowitz.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBrun. These are communications that were, people wrote in to speak, and we will start. The first communication is Brian Witten of 142 Steele Road addressing the council on behalf of Boy Scout Troop 70 to discuss donations, including park benches, plaques, planters, to the town of West Hartford in honor of individuals lost during the pandemic. And you have 5 minutes to speak according to council rules, and that will automatically trigger when, it works automatically when you speak into it. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm here mainly to introduce my son, Joseph Witten, a Boy Scout with Troop 70.
Hi, I'm Joseph Witten, a Boy Scout with Troop 70, working on my Eagle project. For my Eagle project, I'd like to build a wooden bench or a raised planter with a plaque remembering all those we've lost in the pandemic. We'd be happy to do benches like these, or concrete for lower maintenance, or recycled if preferred for environmental concerns. If you'd like a planter, or thinking of circular planters such as these, we're happy for the town and the park to have control over the materials, location, and other constraints. We're just hoping the town will allow us to give such a gift of a bench and or planter, and allow the Scouts to have a hand in helping build it for it to count as an Eagle project.
We're entirely flexible on the location. We've been introduced to Lisa Karam, who I believe is with the Bushnell Parks Foundation. But if there's a leader within the town of West Hartford, we'd love to do it here. As residents of West Hartford, we love the town, and we'd like to see this for the town going forward. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, and being an Eagle Scout is quite a commitment, and I'm very proud of that, and we will make sure the town manager follows up with you on a connection for the town to process what might be possible, okay?
Thank you deeply.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Okay, the next speaker is Malcolm Doyle of 111 Randal Avenue, addressing the council on the local elderly property tax freeze. Mr. Doyle. And you also have 5 minutes.
The Honorable Sherry Cantor and distinguished members of the West Hartford Town Council, thank you for allowing me to be here today. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Mal Doyle, and as Mayor Cantor indicated, I live at 111 Randal Avenue in West Hartford. I've lived in the same house for 52 years, so I guess that gives me the right to be here today. But I retired in the year 2000, and you know that when you're working, you have a different outlook on what expenses look like and what your income should be. I think that in many instances, you just pay bills as they come and don't give it a second thought. But I found out that I'm a very structured person and thought that I would have enough income for my retirement years. Now I discover I'm running out of money. I'm outliving my income, and that's really scary. But the strange thing about that is, February 1st of 2018, I was diagnosed with a disease called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. It's a disease that causes scarring of the lungs. Those of us who have this disease live approximately between 3 and 5 years after the initial diagnosis. So I'll be okay for the next couple of years. But I want to talk to you about tax-free application form that we have for the elderly. I looked at it because I thought maybe that could help me when it came to staying in the town of West Hartford. And I found that for single people, you can earn up to $38,100. And then for a married couple, it's $46,400. Well, when I looked at the $46,400 and compared it to the $38,000, I said, well, let me do some quick calculations, and I found that we did not qualify. Our income was over that figure, primarily because of Social Security. So I'm here to talk to you today about something a little bit different. I want to talk to you briefly about the expense side of growing older. You know, when you first retire, you enjoy your first couple of years, then all of a sudden you think, oh my God, I might need a new roof, or I might have to have my furnace replaced, or my chimney needs to be pointed, or I need a new stove, or I need a new refrigerator. And I haven't said anything yet about outside and caring for your lawn, having somebody come in to cut your lawn and trim your shrubs and things of that nature. And God forbid that you should have any kind of a health issue, because if you do, things change for you dramatically. Perhaps you can't go up and down the stairs as you used to. You may need to have oxygen brought into your house on a daily basis, because houses do not take care of themselves. It's expected that we keep our homes up so that we can live in a way that makes us comfortable, and that we can have people over and enjoy their company as well. So I want to leave you with this one message. You know, as we grow older, we really want to die with dignity, not poverty. I'm so grateful to all of you for what you do for the town of West Hartford. You make this a better place. As I told Robin Rifkin a bit earlier, she could have been home with her family tonight, and so could you. But you're here, and you care. And boy, I'm proud to be a resident of West Hartford. That concludes my comments. Oh, one thing. Today is, I believe, International Women's Day. Can we just simply acknowledge every woman here tonight?
Right, Mal, if you stay, we have a proclamation on International Women's Day, so you can clap again.
Isn't that nice?
But be well, and thank you for all you do for pulmonary fibrosis and making our community better. All right, so that is our written in communications, and I will make a motion to adjourn. If there's no objections, we are adjourned. And we will start the council meeting in 5 minutes. So if you want to, we'll start at 7:30. Okay. Yeah. It's a wild staff group over there.
We have the director of IT here with us.
Jared's in the house.
He woke me up.
We are calling the March 8th Town Council meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A roll call, Ms. LeBrun.
Ms. Billing-Smith,
Present.
Ms. Blanks,
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Cortez.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mrs. Fay.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Winograd.
Here.
And Mr. Zdanowitz.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get into our business, I just want to take a moment to think about our world and the Ukrainian people and President Zelensky and the bravery, the strength, the fortitude that we have seen, and we're reminded very much through the will of the incredible people fighting this unprovoked attack of war, how freedom isn't free and how important it is to stand up for democracy, and we can't take anything for granted. And there's the moms and children that are fleeing. There's over 2 million people, the fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II in Europe. And no question that we're all going to be feeling a lot of pain, but nobody is feeling it like the people, especially the women and children that have to leave their homes, and there's so many people fighting the fight. So let's just do a moment of silence to think about them. Thank you very much. And now we have a proclamation, and Mal left, but today is the International Day of Woman, March 8th, but it's also a beginning of Women's History Month. So whereas Women's History Month is celebrated nationally to recognize, highlight, and learn about the successes of women throughout U.S. history, and is celebrated in conjunction with the global recognition of International Women's Day, established to work toward gender equality, improve the lives of all women through cultural, legal, economic, and social change. And whereas on this March 8th, 2022, the 111th International Women's Day, we celebrate and encourage everyone to take actions against gender bias and inequity in support of 2022 theme of Break the Bias. And whereas Women's History Month and International Women's Day celebrate the collective power of women, pays tribute to their achievements, and recognizes the remaining challenges to further efforts for women's rights and gender equality, encouraging and mobilizing all people to contribute to positive change. And whereas the town of West Hartford honors the accomplished and visionary women who have helped build our country, including those whose contributions have not been adequately recognized and celebrated. And whereas West Hartford pays tribute to the trailblazers from the recent and distant past for daring to envision a future and building a nation of endless possibilities for all of its women. And whereas Kamala Harris is currently serving as the 49th Vice President and the first and highest ranking female official in U.S. history. And whereas currently women are serving locally in leadership positions, inspiring the continued work in advancing the rights, opportunities, and full participation of women and girls of all backgrounds. And whereas Women's History Month activities encourage a year-long commitment of employers of women to maintain a deep and continuous focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion all year round. Now therefore be it proclaimed on behalf of the Town Council and residents of West Hartford, I, Mayor Sherry G. Cantor, do hereby recognize March 8th, 2022 as the 111th International Women's Day and March 2022 as Women's History Month as we reflect on the achievements and progress of women and encourage everyone to work together to address issues affecting women and girls, as well as empower and strengthen each and every individual regardless of sex, gender, and race. Thank you very much. And congratulations and thank you to all the women and the incredible contributions that you make on a daily basis. Public forum. I don't think there's anything on the agenda that will prompt a public forum, but is there anybody signed up? Peter?
Madam Mayor, no one has signed up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We will now go to consent. Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, without objection, I move that we place items 5A, 5B, 6D through 6I, 9A through 9C on consent.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the items are placed on consent. Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we will go to number 6, new business. Mr. Ledwith will present before we get to the motion. So, Mr. Ledwith, you are on.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Town Council. I appreciate your patience to the start to this evening's budget presentation. It is an honor to be here this evening to present our fiscal year 23 budget, a budget that we feel provides us with a clear path forward, one built on hope, resiliency, and community. Before we discuss the numbers, we wanted to take a moment to quickly look back over the last 2 years because we feel they're very relevant to where we are today and demonstrate what we can achieve when we come together, of the challenges that we can overcome when we work together and through cooperation, collaboration, and innovation, always finding new ways to meet our community's needs. 2 years ago, when we deliberated our budget, we were at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. We went into full response mode and were forced to reevaluate the needs of our residents and children. And our Town Council and Board of Education and our employees worked together to meet the needs of our community in ways we never imagined in our history. As our state and country shut down, our public safety personnel were on the front lines providing health and safety to our residents. Our social services team were there to meet our residents' social and emotional needs. Our teachers and administrators moved quickly to move 9,000 plus students to a high-quality online learning model. Our employees for both the town and the schools all found creative ways to serve our community during the shutdown. And our health district and nurses began what would be a 2-year-long marathon of daily testing, contact tracing thousands, and vaccinating and boosting thousands. As unemployment soared and our economy plummeted, our Town Council minimized the additional financial burden property taxes would place on our residents by limiting the tax increase to less than 1%. Last year, the pandemic continued on, and we continued to witness a variety of economic and human hardships. So again, the Town Council worked hard through the spring of '21 to adopt a budget that would build on our current services while providing our residents with financial relief. And as we learned more about the virus, we were able to move from a response to the virus to recovery efforts. As we dealt with the Delta and Omicron variants, we followed the science and focused on promoting masks, testing, contact tracing, and giving our community clear information to help protect themselves and their families. Our health district went to extraordinary lengths to administer as many vaccinations as possible. And as the hard work of keeping West Hartford one of the safest and highest vaccinated communities in the state, our council and staff continued the hard work of moving our town forward. In fact, when you look at everything we accomplished in spite of being in the throes of the pandemic, it is simply amazing. And that, again, is a testament to our public safety and health district staff who maintain their focus on our health and safety while our council and staff focused on exciting growth opportunities and programs and policies that touch our entire diverse community. Last Friday, the mayor did a wonderful job of highlighting all of the work this council and our staff accomplished over the last year in her State of the Town address. From thriving economic development touching every corner of our town to our work in equity and sustainability and so much more. And to quote our mayor, West Hartford is stronger than ever. Today, we are hopeful that we are closer to the spring of 2019 than we are the spring of 2020. Our students are mask optional for the first time in 2 years, and the Connecticut Department of Public Health has directed communities to transition the management of COVID-19 in schools from a pandemic emergency response model towards a more standard public health approach to the management of respiratory viral diseases. We are hopeful that we will transition from a pandemic to an endemic. But if we are faced with another variant, we know that we have the resiliency, determination, and team to guide us through whatever challenge lies ahead. The budget we will discuss tonight builds on our successes, addresses emerging challenges like inflation, supply chain issues, and maintains our core services. West Hartford has always maintained a stellar reputation for a great place to live, work, and learn, and that is because of our schools, our focus on public health, public safety, and of course our public works and facilities, as well as our library and leisure services programs. We take tremendous pride in our diversity, our citizen engagement, as demonstrated by our over 30 boards and commissions, and our excellent public services, which consistently puts us on many top 10 lists around the country, like Niche Magazine's Best Places to Live in Connecticut and Money Magazine's Top 50 Places to Live, just to name a few. This budget supports our nationally recognized school district as Hall and Conard, again, ranked in the top 1% of high schools by Newsweek magazine. This budget also meets our short-term and long-term goals that maintain and strengthen our current infrastructure, addressing school security and air quality, continued work on roads and bridges, and provides additional funding for stormwater and flood mitigation improvements. One of the exciting things about working in local government is our opportunity to shape the future of our town so that it is always a destination for that next generation. And this is one of those ways that we can build our future through our capital improvement plan. So now we can get to the numbers. We will start with an overview of our general fund summary. Our town, we're recommending a 1.85% increase in our town expenses to $119.4 million. Last Tuesday evening, the superintendent presented his budget to the Board of Education, recommending a 3.29% increase in spending to $181.3 million. And we're also recommending a 9.67% increase in capital financing to $17.1 million. Combined, this is a 3.06% increase in expenses for fiscal year 23. So now we'll get to the summary of the revenues and expenses, and we will start by focusing on the bottom portion of this ledger, and we'll start with the expenses. As you can see at the bottom, we have the 3.06% increase in total expenditures, which includes Board of Education, capital financing, and town services, as I mentioned. You can see that there is a 7.16% increase in wages and salaries. It is important to note that we are not awarding 7% increases in raises to our staff. Most of this increase is due to the fact that we had 4 years of compounded retroactive wage adjustments for bargaining units that had expired and with the council had not ratified prior to the budget being adopted last year. So we budgeted those wage increases in our contingency funds, and now we're moving them over into our payroll fund. We've also built in 2 upcoming Connecticut minimum wage increases into that wages and salary account. So we have an increase coming up for July 1st and another one coming up for June of 23, totaling about $372,000. Payroll also includes reinstating 3 positions that had been defunded, moving 2 part-time positions to full-time, and adding 4 new positions, 2 positions for our finance department, a mechanic for our Department of Public Works, an assistant director of social services, which will help us to continue to effectively meet the social and emotional needs of our community. This budget, this wages and salary line item, invests in our best asset, and that's our employees who bring all of our policies, plans, and programs to life. Our operating expenses are up 3.79% right there. And we did build $242,000 into this number to offset any kind of contract increases related to inflation or supply chain issues. In terms of good news on the expense side, you can see our benefits, insurance, and pension liability decreasing by $2 million, and that's primarily attributable to the issuance of pension obligation bonds, which we'll get into more detail later in the presentation. On the revenue side, you can see we have a corresponding 3.06% increase in revenues. I do want to highlight one outlier here, and that's the decrease of $4.1 million in intergovernmental revenues. You may recall that we did recommend a one-time use of $4.1 million in ARPA funds last fiscal year to offset lost revenues, which of course was an appropriate use of ARPA funds. So the reason you have the $12.3 million increase in property taxes is due to that decrease in revenue this year of the $4.1 million. So when you add the 2.9 decrease to the 9.4, gives you the total of the $12.3 million increase in property taxes that we would be looking for. So again, general fund overview, just a quick summary, 3.06% overall increase in the expenditures, 1.85% in town services, 3.29% in education, and 9.67% in capital financing. We will propose reducing the mill rate from 42.42 to 39.83, which is a 6.11% decrease in our mill rate. And that's primarily attributable to the revaluation which was performed this year, and we will get into more details on that in a moment. So here we have our proposed general fund revenue broken out by a percentage across the various line items. And as you can see, the largest revenue source for West Hartford and really most communities around the state of Connecticut is our local property tax revenue, which accounts for 88% of our general fund revenue. Next, we'll talk about our grand list. Our grand list, as you can see at the bottom there, is increasing from $6.3 million to $6.3 billion, to $7.1 billion, a $781 million increase in the value of real property, personal property, and motor vehicles in the town of West Hartford, which certainly is an indication of our vibrant community. We have an 11.3% increase in real property, a 10% increase in personal property, and a unprecedented 25% increase in motor vehicle values. And that's unlike anything we've ever seen whenever we've done a revaluation. And that's, again, due to the pandemic. In September of 2019, there were 3.5 million available new cars available in the United States. In September of 21, there were less than 1 million. So that drove up the demand on used cars, which obviously had an impact on the supply and drove up the prices, resulting in this very large increase in our motor vehicle values. So again, a $781 million increase in our grand list, totaling 12.2%. And we certainly will talk more about the impact that reval will have on our tax community throughout town as we move through the budget workshops. Deeper dive into the governor's proposed state aid. The good news, there's a slight reduction of $32,000. So essentially, it remains flat this year. It's been flat for the last couple of years, which is good. We will take that. As folks do know, the governor did propose a motor vehicle mill rate cap of 29 mills. So, however, given the uncertainty of any possible modifications to this proposal, we have assumed that there will be no change in the motor vehicle mill rate. However, if this proposal does pass, our motor vehicle revenue will drop by approximately $6.9 million, and the governor would reimburse us that $6.9 million through his proposal. So again, this is the last 10 years of total state aid. You can see the last few years have remained pretty flat at $25.7 million. Most of our state aid is received in the form of our educational cost sharing grant, which totals about $22.5 million of that $25 million. Again, just a quick summary of which we've discussed earlier: 1.85% increase in town expenses, 3.29% in Board of Education, 9.67% in capital financing, resulting in a total expense increase of 3.06%. And we do put this into the form of a pie chart, and you can see that the Board of Education makes up 57% of our total general fund expenditures, the town at 38%. Our school district with 1,500 full-time employees and educating 9,000 students certainly makes sense that the school district would make up a larger portion of this pie. If you were to look at this pie chart at virtually any city and town in the state of Connecticut, it would look very, very similar to the one before you this evening. So we have our town main expenditure categories broken out by percentages. You can see our wages and salaries at 39%, fringe benefits at 37%, that's 76%. We are of course, as everyone knows, a people-oriented business providing direct services to our residents, so it would make sense that this would make up the largest portion of our expenditures, and then the operating expenses are at 24%. So this breaks out the general fund expenditures by department, with, again, education being the highest at 57%. Our non-departmental, which is our employee benefit line items, our MDC ad valorem tax, contingency funds, second at 17%. On the town side, our two largest organizations are police and fire, public safety employees, and they make up 10% of the total general fund expenditure. They also comprise over half of our workforce, so it would make sense that they would be the highest on the town side. Second highest department would be Public Works at 4%, and all other departments at 7%. So it goes a little, this exhibit goes a little bit deeper and looks at each individual department by total dollar amount and then total percentage. The one I would want to focus on here would be MDC, which is at $11.9 million. And as folks know, that's an ad valorem tax to provide sewer services for our residents in town. And the good news is this number has remained pretty flat for the last couple of years. So we appreciate the work on behalf of the MDC to keep that number flat for us. All right, next couple of slides, we will going to spend a little time talking through our pension, and I'll start by saying there are times in our history when our mayor and our town council had the vision and strategy to do something that was a game changer for our community, and our pension obligation bond strategy is certainly that. So if you look up on the left-hand side, we have our fiscal year 2022 pension costs. So at that point, you may recall we were 40.6% funded. Our ADEC, which is our actuarial determined employer contribution, we're all getting used to that acronym now, was $26.9 million, and our total pension liability was $26.9 million, right there at the bottom. We issued $323 million in pension obligation bonds in June of last year, and our pension funded ratio went to 101.5%, so we're slightly overfunded. Our actuarial determined employer contribution, our ADEC, decreased from $26.9 million to $7.2 million. So this is now the normal cost. We used to have the past service liability built into this figure. That goes away now that we're fully funded. And our pension obligation debt service was $17.6 million. Our total pension liability for fiscal year 2023 is $24.9 million, a $2 million savings. The total savings we're estimating over the next 25 to 30 years with our pension obligation bond strategy will surpass $100 million and get close to $150 million over the next 25 to 30 years. Over that time period. So said a little differently, had we not issued our pension obligation bonds last June, we would be taxing our community an additional $2 million this year. So I cannot say enough about that vision, and just outstanding work on behalf of this council. So we get a little bit deeper in our pension plan, probably too much detail here, but it's good news, so we'll highlight it again. Total actuarial liability, $584 million. Total actuarial value of assets, $592 million. We are overfunded by $8.5 million, so that funded ratio is 101.5%. Again, you may recall we lowered the discount rate from 6.99% to 6.25%. Our amortization period remaining is 25 years, which is in line with our bond issuance. And the other piece of good news is right down here at the bottom. When we issued these bonds, we did so at a true interest cost of 2.539%. That's 46 basis points below our targeted 3% issuance rate. So again, phenomenal news on the issuance of these pension obligation bonds. And I do want to highlight the fact that both of our rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, fully endorsed our POB strategy. So we get to our key town drivers. Sorry about that. Again, as you can see, regular payrolls at $2.6 million. And again, most of that is a result of moving the money from our contingency funds over to the payroll fund to make up for those 4 years of retroactive wage adjustments that we made for those unions. Temporary payroll, again, going up $372,000 due to the increase in minimum wage. the two increases in minimum wage. Information technology, we are rolling out Microsoft 365, which is very exciting for all the folks who work here. And again, you see the pension liability risk management dropping down as well due to the move to the state partnership plan. We do have contingency for unsettled contracts. So we are back at the table with CSEA negotiating. We are also negotiating with our fire union. So we have built in a contingency for both of those unsettled contracts. Our police union and our AFSCME unions are both in the middle of long-term agreements. So their wage increases are already built into the regular payroll number. And then we do, this budget does recommend the use of $1.75 million in applied bond premium, and that results in a debt service number of $487,336. $336. Again, too much detail. And then transfer to CNRE from the general fund of $1 million. Superintendent, as we know, did present his budget last Tuesday to the Board of Education and recommended a 3.29% increase over their adopted budget. As folks know, I was personally involved in this budget as I was working with the schools up until 4 weeks ago. And as we also know, unfortunately, our children have been significantly impacted by the pandemic. And I do feel that this is a fair and responsible budget that maintains our investment in the future and allows our schools to continue to clear paths, to create bright futures with no limits for our 9,000 students. So as you know, we have a significant infrastructure to maintain throughout town, and we have our 12-year capital improvement plan as our town council's commitment to maintaining that infrastructure. Our current 12-year capital improvement plan calls for an investment of nearly $350 million in town and school facilities, transportation and infrastructure, including flood mitigation. And as we know, as the council knows, years 1 and 2 are the most important part of that 12-year capital improvement plan, because those are the 2 years that you will be voting on through this budget process. So for this fiscal year, we're recommending an increase or a total dollar amount of $32.9 million. Fiscal year 24, $30.87 million, and with the majority of the capital improvement funds being spent on transportation and infrastructure and education. Next exhibit highlights some of our important projects, which includes the much anticipated New Park Avenue Complete Streets program at $3.8 million. Of course, we have our annual street resurfacing program at $4.9 million for years 1 and 2. And we also have our Park Road rehabilitation at $1.5 million. We have several areas that we'll be spending on education infrastructure. The one I'd like to highlight is the elementary air quality program, which is a $6.2 million expense over the first 2 years. As folks probably learned, as we learned through the pandemic, certainly, that 9 of our 11 schools were built prior to 1964 and do not have adequate fresh air intake into the buildings. So we have a 15-year plan to improve the infrastructure for the air quality system in those 9 schools. We were recently informed by the governor from our legislators that the governor may be providing us with additional funding for our air quality project. So if that were to happen, we would be able to get to those 9 schools sooner and take 3 years off that total 15-year project, which would be outstanding. And then we have our town building improvements. We have our townwide emergency generators, $3 million for years 1 and 2. And this is really important for our emergency preparedness plan. And we would be funding generators for the town hall, Hall High School, Conard High School, library, fire station 1, and I believe we have Cornerstone built into this plan as well. So Capital Improvement Fund revenue resources, you can see the 286 million of that 350 million are done through general obligation bond issuance. We have $32 million in federal and state grants and an additional $30 million in capital and non-reoccurring funds. And then here we break it out between transportation and infrastructure, education, parks and recreation, town buildings, government operations, and rolling stock. And you can see again, 76.9%, 77% is focused on transportation and infrastructure and education. We have our capital non-recurring fund, and you can see we will be using a $520,000 CNRE fund balance, which would lower our general fund contribution to $1 million. And as you know, CNRE is for used for capital projects that are non-recurring and have a useful life of less than 10 years. And we do a lot of purchasing of vehicles through our CNRE, public works equipment, communications infrastructure. We will take care of some computer infrastructure through CNRE as well. So again, the total contribution, general fund contribution this year that we're recommending would be $1 million. So in closing, we believe this is this budget addresses the diverse needs of our community while being mindful of our responsibility to our taxpayers. This budget we feel is a fiscally sound financial plan designed to provide outstanding services that are critical to maintaining our quality of life and our standing as one of the nation's premier communities. We look forward to reviewing this budget in detail with each of you over the coming weeks. I do want to thank all of our directors, some of whom are here this evening, for their commitment and dedication to their roles all year round in doing what is best for the residents of our great town, and certainly for their help in developing their individual department budgets. And then just a huge shout out to our finance team. So our directors, we work on our budgets through the month of December. We present them to Peter and his team just after the holidays, and then for the next 8 weeks, we ask our finance team to give up their work and life family balance and spend most weekends over the course of that 8-week period developing the budget that's here before you this evening. So I do want to give a shout out to Peter Privatera, Director of Finance, no stranger to anyone, our Financial Operations Manager, Lisa Newton, our Budget and Grants Manager, Patty Lewis, who's both are back here as well, Angela Iducciani, who's our accountant, and Carrie Huffer, who is our staff assistant. So again, a big thank you to them. So we will be spending a lot of time together over the next 6 weeks, deliberating, crafting, amending, working on this budget together. So this highlights all of the upcoming meetings that will take place over the next 6 weeks. These will be published on our website. Next Wednesday, the 16th, we do have a public hearing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We have a budget workshop at 6:30 that evening, where we have several departments that will be before you to present their budgets. We have another budget workshop on March 30th, where we invite the Board of Education to come in and meet and talk through our budgets together. And then on April 6th, we have another public hearing in the evening and another workshop right after that public hearing with our health district, fire department, police department, community development, and actually it'll be public works at night, not planned facility services. April 12th, we have a public hearing for our special services district, which we discussed the budget earlier this evening. And then we have a separate budget workshop for a capital improvement plan on April 18th. And then on April 25th, the council would vote to adopt a budget for the upcoming fiscal year. So that concludes our summary of the budget that's before all of you. This will also be put up online as well, so our residents would have an opportunity to review our budget as well. That'll be up for tomorrow. I'd be happy to answer any preliminary questions that the council had.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ledwood. That was a really, really good first overview. I thought you gave a lot of context, so I appreciate that very much. Just a quick question, the budget in brief, is that published on, it's available and then it's online?
It'll be online. Everything will be online tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning.
Okay, so tomorrow morning, everything will be online for the record. Okay, any questions we obviously are going to be diving into the budget and going through the pieces of it. So that's not the time to ask the questions for that, but any other? Yes, Ms. Fay.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll all have lots more as we go through this. But I know in previous years, we've done sort of an example of a certain person with a house priced at this. This has so many moving parts between the mill rate changing, the reevaluation coming in, and now a new budget. So could you help me understand what the impact to a typical taxpayer, like with a I think it's a $250,000 home, I believe we've used in the past, something like that?
It's probably a little bit higher now, but
Well, yeah, probably.
thank you, Councilor Fay, through you, Madam Mayor. So as I discussed earlier, when we went through the revaluation for this year, so that's, and you're exactly right, normally we would have an exhibit in there that would outline the average increase for the average taxpayer. This year is going to be very complicated, and we're going to need to spend some time during our budget workshop to talk through the revaluation process, because there are certain areas of town that have seen the values of their homes increase quite significantly. So we have Elmwood, primarily. We also have the Aiken neighborhood just north of King Philip, where we saw values increase by 20 to 25%. So it was difficult to put all that together into an average tax increase that we normally would do 4 out of the 5 years. So this year was more challenging, but we will be discussing that along with the impact of reval during our workshops. But good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Zdanovitz.
Thank you, Mayor. Not necessarily a question. I have questions, but we'll save them for when we get into it. But after being through 9 budgets, school budgets albeit, I have to say, Rick, for your first time doing it on your own like this, very well presented, very comprehensive, very well done. I don't think I missed a thing. So kudos to you. I know that you've only been on the job a short time, but well done. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Zdanovitz. Anything else? All right, so obviously a lot more discussion and context to follow. And we will, I'll take this moment and we will say more thank yous down the road. But thank you very, very much to the financial team for your work in preparing this budget. You are recognized as well, but so much work has gone into the preparation. And I know that, you're consulted all the time, and I just appreciate all the time you put into it. It's a really heavy lift. Thank you. And also to our amazing directors. This has been an extraordinary time for municipal governments, and our leaders have risen to the top. So thank you so much. All right. Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, without objection, I move that we set this item for a public hearing on March 16, 2022 at 2 p.m. and April 6, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any objections? Motion is adopted. Thank you very much. And now we go to B. Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, without objection, I move that we receive the ordinance and schedule a public hearing on March 22nd, 2022, the ordinance receiving, ordinance amending the tax exemption procedure for ambulance-type vehicles.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any objections? Okay, motion is adopted. Number C, letter C.
Madam Mayor, without objection, I move that we receive the ordinance concerning outdoor dining and refer it to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission and CROG and schedule a public hearing on April 12th, 2022 at 6:45 PM.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any objections? Motion is adopted. We now go to reports from the town manager. I have none on my little teacher's edition.
Just gave it. Thank you.
I think so. Reports from Corporation Council also. Just
report, thank
checking.
you.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a few announcements. So there will be a rally, there will be a rally for peace in Ukraine on Sunday, March 13th at 4 p.m. in front of Town Hall. Everyone is welcome. We will have an West Hartford Art League is looking for artists to donate a small work of art for an online exhibit and sale to benefit Ukraine relief efforts. A work must portray a theme of either sunflowers, that's Ukraine's national flower, or a predominant theme of blue and yellow, the color of Ukraine's flag. Work will be exhibited on the West Hartford Art League's website, or they can, bless you, or they can, where they can be purchased. All proceeds will go to OCA, Orthodox Church in America, for Ukrainian refugee relief. The deadline to submit work is April 1st at noon. The online exhibit will open April 8th. For more information, please contact the West Hartford Art League at 860-231-8019. Congratulations to 2 West Hartford basketball teams. Congratulations goes to Northwest Catholic High School and Conard High School as they head to the Division II state tournament this week. Northwest Catholic is number 2 seed and Conard is a number 3 seed. Conard High School's basketball team had the best season in record in school's history with 20 wins and 3 losses. Conard will play the winner of West Hill versus Xavier contest tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. And that is, again, in the Conard, at Conard. Congratulations, and I will be there rooting. Divas, Double or Nothing, March 16th through 27th. Playhouse on Park's resident dance company, Stop Time Dance Theater, is paying homage to everyone's favorite divas. Cher, Tina, Gloria, Shania, Dolly, Whitney, and much more with its new production, Divas, Double or Nothing. The show runs March 16th through 27th, like I said. Tickets are range from $30 to $40. Preview tickets are March 16th and 17th, are $20 each. For more information, call the box office or visit www.playhouseonpark.org. Johnny's Jog for Charity will take place on March 27th. It is a St. Patrick's themed 5K run to benefit local nonprofit children's charity organizations. Runners step off at 10:30 a.m. at Blueback Square. The event features Irish music and step dancers, clowns, leprechauns, and prizes for the best Irish garb. Go Lamb. Pre-register at johnnysjog.com. Hall High's 64th, and I think my dad didn't miss one, annual Pops and Jazz Extravaganza. They returned to the stage in front of live audiences with an incredible group of over 100 award-winning student performers, an amazing roster of internationally recognized professional guest artists. The show runs March 11th through 19. Tickets are $18 for adults, $15 for students. Sunday matinee show is $10. Go to hallhighjazz.tix.com or call the box office at 860-929-5151. Conard High School presents Footloose. Conard Performing Arts program that will be March 11th through 13th and March 18th and 19th. Tickets are $18 for adults and $15 for students and are available at conarddrama.ludus.com. Bristow Players presents Matilda the Musical Junior. Bristow, that's Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical on March 24th through March 26th. Tickets are $15 each and may be purchased. It's a way long, too long, but it will be on the website, and go to Bristow's website. I'm sure the link will be there. So as you can see, it is theater month in West Hartford, music and theater. Witness Stone's West Hartford free virtual learning series. The public is invited to attend this series, free 1-hour online learning. Participants will learn about the history of slavery and freedom in West Hartford by using the database of more than 80 people enslaved here. Attendees will discuss issues of inclusion, equity, and diversity, both throughout history and today. Classes take place on Thursday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., starting on March 17th. Classes are appropriate for adults and students in grades 5 and up. For more information and to register, visit https it's hard to follow. I'm sure we will have a link on our website as well, but you can email town historian Tracy M. Wilson at gmail.com. That's easier to portray. So, all right. Any other announcements for our public?
May I?
Yes, Ms. Fay.
This Saturday at 11 o'clock will be the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's coming back in Hartford. Again, I believe it's the 50th year, and the West Hartford counselors and officials are invited to march.
And don't leave early because we are the last in the parade. So we will be marching around 2, I think. But anyway, it will be fun. I also want to say go to our Yukon Huskies that are both men and women. This could be a very exciting march. Anything else? Yes, Mr. Zidane.
Because, I actually wrote the local news here, and it's a little closer to my heart. We all talk Yukon boys and girls basketball, but the girls, women's and men's indoor teams both won the Big East. So
That's right.
Yukon's Big East, and they just came. They both won a big championship, the Northeast Championship this past weekend. So they don't get enough credit. So.
Congratulations, and that is quite an accomplishment, and we are rocking the Big East. So, yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay. I think with that, we are Mr. Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, I move for adjournment.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any objections? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.